Good afternoon, Owl Parents. Mr. Hagedorn here with our weekly update. Some good news. We are done with all these the state and county mandated tests, the NC check-ins, the STAR. We won't be doing those for quite a while now, luckily. So the kids are going to get a little break. I know it was a lot the first couple of weeks with that stuff. Next week in Math 6 Plus, we do have a quiz, but just one of my quizzes. We'll have our Unit 6 study guide. That's going to be on expressions, simplifying expressions, following order of operation, using substitution to solve expressions. Then we're going to move on to equations and how we can solve some algebraic equations later in the week. Math 6 will also have a quiz for me. We're going to have our Unit 4. The first quiz is going to be our fractions quiz, even though it's going to be more least common multiple, greatest common factor, and then some adding and subtracting of fractions. After that, we'll move on to multiplying fractions. All right, have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl, even though it's going to be a terrible game, I'm sure. And we'll see you on Monday.
Hey everybody, we've got a lot going on in language arts next week. First of all, unfortunately, the way it just worked out, we're going to end up having two quizzes. Well, one quiz and one test next week. I don't generally like to do that, but that's just kind of how it landed, how it worked out. So there's going to be a quiz on the introduction of World Without Fish on Monday, and I told the kids about it today, sent a message on Talking Points yesterday as well. They'll be able to use their book for it, but they cannot use their vocabulary notes. And we did a review of the vocabulary today, and most of the kids were real solid on that. There's going to be a mid-unit assessment on Wednesday. They'll be able to use their book for that as well. And in addition to those tests, we're going to continue our work with vocabulary strategies and learning how to determine a word meaning on their own independently without having to ask somebody what it means first. We're going to work on a strategy called reciprocal teaching, which is a research-based strategy to improve comprehension and metacognition. So we're going to be using the World Without Fish text to do that, where kids will be making predictions, they'll be clarifying stuff, questioning, summarizing, all that good stuff. And we'll also continue working with how the author of the book develops his idea of fish depletion. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game.
All right, 6-4 families. The last 2 weeks we have been spent on plate tectonics, and there's 3 different plate boundaries. We've wrapped up this week with kind of like all the quizzes, the activities that go with that. Oreo activity was on Tuesday. Thank you for the donations. That went well. We have one last stretch of tasks to do with this standard. These people are talking and getting distracted, but it's okay. They're distracted over there, but I understand. We will be taking famous land boundaries like the Ring of Fire or Mount Fuji or the Aleutian Islands. And all these different boundaries were created by some type of land boundary, either divergent, convergent, subduction, convergent, collision, or transform. Students are going to do like a little mini research project on it that will end in a poster. And then we're going to focus the end result on knowing how to do a self-assessment, a peer assessment, and how to grade yourself and then grade a peer productively and having a conversation about, I think you're missing this, I think this part's great. So we're going to be doing a little reflective practice near the end of next week. That will wrap up our section on plate boundaries, and then we will start to gradually move into soil, and we will not refer to it as dirt. All right. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy it while it's dry. It's supposed to rain next week.
All right, friends, we'll talk real quickly about social studies class as we are into our unit on politics. We've been mostly focusing in on kind of the foundations of government and the different types of government. So we're understanding what an oligarchy is versus a democracy. We're understanding what an aristocracy is versus a theocracy. Today we had quite a fun little game where I gave a group a deck of cards. Their job was to build a house of cards, but they had to do it as a government. So we had a queen or a king and they got to be in charge of the group. Or there was an oligarchy where the small group got to work, or a dictatorship where someone got to be kind of mean. Not really, but they got to make all of the decisions. So we're pretty much done with the types of government. And so as we get into next week, we're going to be looking at some legal codes from history. So we'll be looking at the 12 Tables of Rome starting on Monday. We'll get into Hammurabi's Code a little bit, Justinian's Code. We'll talk a little bit about the Magna Carta. We end with a little bit of this unit on kind of citizenship in the ancient world and what citizens were in the ancient world versus today a little bit. And then we move on to our unit on economics. And so we're almost done with politics. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you back here next week.